Assalamu alaikum, peace be upon you. My name is Brother Omar El Rashed, and I'm the Peaceful Hearts Guide and author and poet. And I wanted to share with you on today's Wellness with Rashed a little bit about practicing and living the wisdom that we hear. A lot of us have been dealing with times in our life in which we hear really good ideas and really good ways of living. But sometimes we find it very difficult to actually put these wise ideas and these good ideas into our lives. And we might be wondering, well, what does it take to make that transformation happen? And I want to share with you some wisdom from the Quran. It's in chapter 75, ayahs number 17, 18, and 19. And the brief paraphrase, just reading the English, is, "Then it is on us to reveal it, to collect and reveal it. Then, when you receive its revelation, you will follow its revelation. Then it is up to us, Allah, to explain it." And so this gives the secret, the kernel of truth that is the key to implementing any wisdom in our lives. Especially in modern society, we often expect to understand things before we do them. I don't want to, for example, take a certain exam and do it this way until I understand why I'm doing it. I don't want to take this health medication, or I don't want to take this food or eat this and change my diet unless I understand why I'm doing it. And for many things in life, that's a very good strategy. The reason is there's a lot of false information, so it helps to have a system of being able to distinguish between the truth and the falsehood, right? You don't want to start practicing something and it be ineffectual, or in worse, it'd be harmful, right? So there's a lot of challenges that we have in our lives where we have to be able to distinguish between what is the good idea and what is the bad idea, and oftentimes we want to be able to understand what we're doing before we start practicing and living those principles. Now, one of the keys is that when you establish that something is a divine source or is a practical, wise source, the best way to do it and to find results from that action is to simply do it. Allah shares in these verses that when the revelation comes, when something that is authentically true comes to us, first we follow its revelation, and then Allah will explain to us, whether it be through the results that we see in our lives, or whether it be the effects that we have after practicing it, or Allah directly communicates it to us in the case of the Prophet. But this is the essential key. We have to live the wisdom. Then we will understand why we should be living the wisdom, which is a little bit different than what most people in modern society say. They say, no, you've got to understand why you're doing it first. But then the key becomes, how do we distinguish and evaluate for ourselves whether something that is coming to us is truth and is authentically from divine sources or from trustworthy sources and is beneficial knowledge, and how isn't it? Well, that's why having a guide is so helpful. And not only having a guide who knows the way, but someone who is able to help pass on that knowledge and that wisdom to you. And, you know, there's a John Maxwell quote, who's a famous business leader and leadership expert. And what he says is, a leader is the one who knows the way, goes the way, and shows the way. And it's a very beautiful statement, and it's very short, but it has a lot of wisdom. Because number one, the leader has to know what is truth and what is falsehood, what is accurate, what is beneficial, and what is harmful. Then they have to actually walk that path. Because there are a lot of people who have knowledge and they have information in their brains, but they don't practice them. And if you follow someone who doesn't actually practice the wisdom that they teach, you end up falling into the difficulty of, number one, they're not going to know how to help you if you encounter problems on the way because they've never done it themselves. And more importantly, that's a small form of hypocrisy, right? Trying to teach other people things and not being able to practice it ourselves. You know, you want to have someone who's able to lead you and guide you on this path, someone who's actually done it themselves. And then the third key is someone who shows the way, someone who is able to communicate to you and help you as you're going on your journey, how to do it, how to find the results that you're looking for, how to reach the acquired end and the desired end. So these are some principles, and you may be wondering, okay, there's a lot of wisdom, there's a lot of good ideas that I have in my life. Oh, don't backbite, tell the truth, have moral integrity, be just, all of these things. Speak whenever you hear, whenever you see an injustice, change it with your hand. If you can't, change it with your tongue. If you can't even do that, then hate it in your heart, and that's the weakest of Iman. There are all of these sayings and wisdom that we have accumulated in our lives, coming to us from the Prophet and Allah and the leaders established with authority among us. And the question becomes, how do we start to actually live and implement that practice and those wisdom in our lives? And I wanted to share with you that one of the keys is to practice it and to have a guide who can help you and instruct you on the way of the best way, the easiest way to do it. Now, for those of you who are interested in pursuing this path and following guidance on your way to get some assistance in getting over depression, anxiety, bipolar, other challenges that you might be facing in your life of struggles and sadness and other issues in your life, sometimes it's helpful to have a guide. Now, it may be that you want to walk it alone, and you can do that. And in fact, I did it that way. It just took me 15 years to find the way and to be able to chart the path, and a lot of bumps and bruises on the way, trying to figure out what works and what doesn't. And alhamdulillah, it's possible for everyone. Allah has made it accessible to all. The question is, do you want to spend 15 years struggling in misery, in difficulty, in hardship, trying to find the right course? Or would you rather have someone guide you on that path so that rather than 15 years, it takes 15 weeks or 15 months or something like that? So that's the question. And that's a question we all have to ask ourselves. But one of the pivotal things to understand is that it is possible to live a life of happiness, peace, serenity, and joy. The question is, are we willing to do what we need to do to live it? If you are interested in working with me, then feel free to message me and we can set up a time to talk. And at the same time, I have some resources that may be beneficial for you that I can distribute to you free of charge. I believe that a lot of this wisdom comes to us naturally, and we should be able to share it, and we should be able to help each other along this path. So I do have some materials that can help you get started on this path. And if you're interested, feel free to send me a message or reach out to me, and we can connect. I pray that this lesson has been beneficial. I hope that it touches your heart and that you're inspired to live the wisdom that we hear and that we're trying to, and inshallah with Allah's grace, able to implement in our lives. With that, I bid you adieu. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh.